Ladies and gentlemen, my name's Parallax Abstraction, and welcome to a special little out-of-cycle mini-episode of Retro Flashback. So, what are we here for? Well, I figured it was worth doing this little sort of public service announcement, if you will, because we got a bit of a major event as modernized retro games go the other day. I'm recording this on April 27th, 2013, which means that a couple of evenings ago, Nintendo dropped a much anticipated major firmware update for the Wii U system. And among several major changes it brought were substantially faster load times in the menus, as well as starting up a number of different titles, plus background download and installation of content such as future system updates and content that you've purchased from the eShop. Both of these things were very, very overdue, and they are very welcome additions. I'm loving them to death. Not going to talk about those much here. There's been plenty of coverage elsewhere about that. But the main event from this that relates to Retro Flashback is that they have also launched the full-on Wii U Virtual Console service, as you can see here. Now, a few of you are probably going, but wait a minute, you've covered a couple of Wii U Virtual Console games already. And that's true, but those were sort of drip-fed previews, I guess, if you want to call them that. They were full-on games, but the actual full Virtual Console service hadn't launched at that point, and it is launched with this game now. It is launched with a relatively small lineup of first-party Nintendo titles, but supposedly a lot more titles are coming, and I would hope that Nintendo's plan is to bring out most of what was on the Wii Virtual Console, the original Wii Virtual Console, to this platform as well. But as usual, they ain't saying much. So I don't know what games are coming, if they have all the same publisher partners, if they're bringing out the same platforms, more platforms, I don't know. I do hope more info will be forthcoming on that. But with this launch, there are a few little interesting things that I wanted to showcase for you guys here, especially those of you who, like me, purchased a lot of content from the original Wii Virtual Console. So let's go into this section of the eShop here, and I will show you what we're looking at. So, we launched, as I said, with a few Nintendo first-party titles here. So some of these are good, some of these are but they're all decent enough. Obviously, right off the top there, Super Mario World, one of the best Super Nintendo games, arguably by many one of the best games ever made. I would say that's a fair argument. So that's a really good one. There's Excite Bike, which NES launch era classic. I don't know how well it holds up in this day and age, but it's cool. Very fond memories for a lot of people, myself included. Donkey Kong Jr., which a lot of people are fond of. I think it's kind of so-so, but it's pretty good. You got that. We got Balloon Fight, which I have covered in a previous video, so go check that out. Same with F-Zero, did a previous video on that. Also, Punch-Out featuring Mr. Dream, did a video on that too. What do you know? And we've also got Ice Climber, which is another NES launch era game that's pretty cool. And we have Kirby's Adventure, which I also recently did a video on. This just came out a little while ago, and it is a kick-ass NES platformer title that I think everybody should play. All those earlier titles launched at a special promo price of 30 cents, and as you can see that as of the time of this recording, Kirby's Adventure is still 30 cents. So go get that. Friggin' seriously, go get that. Now, what you may also be asking is, how come some of these games are on sale? Well, so this is the thing. When Nintendo announced the Wii U Virtual Console, what they'd said was that if you purchase content on the Wii Virtual Console, it would not automatically transfer, you would not automatically get Wii U equivalent versions of those, and that they were going to try to figure out some way to do a discount for those people, but at the time they were very vague and didn't really promise anything. And everyone was kind of like, what? Now, let me be the first to say that there is a large contingent of people out there who are pissy about the fact that your Wii Virtual Console purchases do not automatically transfer over. To those people, I say, shut up. Seriously. Now, I understand. You pay good money for those games and whatnot, but listen, paying for a product once does not guarantee you a version of it on future systems in perpetuity. It simply doesn't. When you bought most of those games, you didn't know the Wii U was coming. The Wii U was barely a thought in anybody's mind at Nintendo throughout most of those game launches. And Yeah, frankly, we're not entitled to newer versions. It requires time and money and effort to make Wii U versions, to add in all the extra functionality that it has, and to expect an automatic upgrade is just entitled and ridiculous. I'm sorry, we're just not owed that. All the Wii Virtual Console games still work. You can still buy them. You can still run them on either the old Wii or in Wii mode of this system if you want. If you transfer them over, you can totally do that. And the fact that they are giving you a substantial discount to get the upgraded version, I think that's perfectly reasonable. And I'm happy to do that for a lot of these games. So if you're one of the people who are upset about that, I don't know what to tell you. They're not going to change it, and I don't think they owe it to us. So there you have it. I haven't actually done any of the transfers yet. Now, it's not actually a transfer. All you're doing is getting a discount on the Wii U version of these Virtual Console titles if you own them on the original Wii. You don't lose the original Wii version by doing this. You're not actually transferring or moving any ownership. You're just getting a discount to buy the game again, essentially, and get the Wii U version of it. Now, here's the kicker. As far as I know, Nintendo has not explained this very well, as they are wont to do, but this is how I understand it. Now, the problem is the eShop, which we're looking at here, and the store shop channel on the original Wii, as far as each of those two things is concerned, the other doesn't exist. They are siloed off. The two accounts do not talk to each other. They don't share information. There's nothing like that. So as I understand it now, the only way your Wii U is going to know that you own the older games is if you used the Wii transfer tool to migrate all your data from your old system to this new one. Now, if you go to my blog at geekbravado.com and go back to around December of 2012, you're going to see a very ranty blog post I wrote on how bloody awful that transfer process is and how it only served to punish the people who gave Nintendo a lot of money for digital content on the original Wii. It's a horrible process. It's stupid. It's unnecessary. It could have been done a lot better. And yeah, people who supported them the most are the people who got screwed the most, like me. But if you do that transfer, then the eShop seems to be able to catalog your games and see which ones that you own to give you the upgrades for. So, for example, I do own Super Mario World, Excite Bike, and Punch-Out on the Wii Virtual Console. It knows that, and it's discounted the stuff. There are games in here, like, for example, Balloon Fight and F-Zero, that were on the Wii Virtual Console, but I did not buy those. I did not buy those versions of those games. So it knows that. There's no discount. You can also see these are grayed out because I already bought them, so I can't get them again. I paid 30 cents for Punch-Out when it came out, so even with the discount, it's still more expensive. And that's basically how that works. If you have not done the transfer, I don't have a means of testing it, but I think if you have not done the transfer, then this stuff will not be discounted. I'm not gonna lie, that sucks. That's really dumb. There should be a better way to do that. You know, a lot of people didn't want to go through the hassle of doing the Wii transfer, but it looks like if you're a big Virtual Console person, chances are you did do the transfer. So there you go. That's the thing with that. As I said as well, they have also not been clear on when other partners and other games are going to show up on the system, and if all the same partners from the Wii Virtual Console are going to come over here. I would guess that by the nature of the agreements they have, they probably have to get new contracts in order to get them on here. And given that interest in the Virtual Console dried up very quickly, I wonder if they're all going to want to sign on again. We'll have to see what happens with that. So that's the general gist of how that works. So if you get the Wii U versions of the game, what do you get? Well, I kind of talked about this in my first Wii U Virtual Console video, which was of F-Zero. But the Wii U brings with it a certain amount of benefits. The games get a little bit of software upscaling to 720p. They don't look a lot better, but they do look a little bit better, especially if you have a big TV. You get much better save state support, the ability to create your own restore points whenever you want, which is really cool. Every game has its own Miiverse, which is kind of fun. And you get another really big benefit, which is off TV play on the Wii U gamepad, which is really, really cool. A lot of people might find that useful. I don't really need it that much, but really cool feature nonetheless. So you may want to transfer some of your games. You may want to only transfer certain ones that you know you're going to want a lot, but it's neat that they give you the choice. I do think it's a little dumb that Super Nintendo games cost an extra 50 cents. I mean, it is just 50 cents, but nonetheless, this is digital content. The emulation layer and the wrapper is already done. You know, they're not substantially bigger. I don't really see why the fact that they're slightly newer justifies a higher cost, but we'll get to that as well. Here's my biggest problem with the Wii U Virtual Console. I'm a huge fan of the Virtual Console. I love that they did it before. I love that they're continuing to do it now. I think it is a very important service to allow not only retro fans like myself, but newer people who don't have the experience with these retro titles to get a chance to play them. That's a big deal, and I think it's great. I wish other companies would get on board with this a little bit more. But here's my gripe. Look at the prices, people. Now look at what... Here we have Super Mario World and Excitebike, a Super NES and an NES game respectively. Look at what they are normally worth when they are not on sale. $7.99 and $4.99. That is insane. I'm sorry, that's ridiculous. We are living in an era now where we have full-blown mobile games, and granted, I'm not a big mobile game guy. I rag on mobile stuff all the time. I think the majority of mobile games are terrible, but there are a lot of good ones, and even if you don't agree with my opinion on that, there are a lot of full-blown original games, not just updates of old games, that cost 99 cents, $1.99, $2.99, in some cases even upwards of $10, $15 in very rare cases. But those are for newer games that are often running on much more modern technology, and they're cheap. And I'm sorry, you could go to eBay or the Goat Store or a lot of places, and in some cases buy these games on the original cartridges, physical cartridges, for less money than Nintendo is asking here for a tiny 30 meg digital copy of the game with a little bit of a fancy UI wrapper on it. That's ridiculous, guys. I'm sorry, like, you are doing yourselves a disservice. You are doing the community a disservice by charging prices for this. It's just not right. Like, Nintendo frequently gets accused of living in its own little bubble and not looking out at the rest of the game industry around them and just sort of doing their own thing and saying, screw everybody else, we're going to do it our way. And you know what? That worked for them for a long time. But you guys have to open your eyes and look around and realize that you are not ruling the roost anymore. You haven't been ruling the roost for a long time. And you can't enter a world where so many games are so cheap, you know, where full-blown new games on Xbox Live Arcade or PlayStation Network are $10 and you're charging $8 for a largely unenhanced original version of, you know, a 20-year-old platformer. Yes, an amazing platformer, but it's 20 years old. And other than a tiny little amount of money and effort, relatively speaking, that they had to put into doing the ports, it's costing them nothing to do this. You know, bandwidth costs nothing. You know, the infrastructure that this is living on, once it's up and running, it does not cost much to maintain. It's too expensive. You have people who... You have a generation of kids right now who, in some cases, their first games that they're playing are on an iPad or another tablet or some smartphone or whatever. And these are people who need to see where games come from and need to experience some of the great classics, I think, to really encourage various facets of gaming literacy, and to you know, if you're really into games, it's important to see this stuff, to see where it came from. If Nintendo could get, and I love the fact that Nintendo was given a dead easy way to do that, but when people look at the cost of this, paying $5 for Excitebike, you know, a classic game, but rudimentary in a massive way, they're going to look at this and go, you want me to pay $5 for this, where I can, you know, when I can pay $6.99 for Infinity Blade, which I think is a terrible game, but I mean, look at Infinity Blade versus this, you know, I mean, it's staggering. And when you're someone who doesn't have a retro fondness, a nostalgic fondness for Excitebike like I do, you know, what would you do? Yeah, I don't know. I think that's a huge misstep. I think these games, I think they could sell thousands, tens of thousands, maybe more than that, of a lot of these games if they charge. Doesn't have to be 99 cents, $1.99, $2.99. I could even live with that. And to be honest, like, these prices, I'm lucky. I have a good amount of disposable income, and I'm a huge retro nut. I will probably pay these prices. But you've already made the pitch to me. You've already got me and people like me on board to make this thing successful, to get more companies and more platform holders to give you the resources and the licenses to really blow this thing out and make it huge. You need lower prices. You know, you might sell, say, 5,000 copies of Super Mario World at $7.99. At $1.99, you could sell 100,000 maybe. You know, other platforms like Steam and now even Microsoft and Sony are starting to realize the value in this. Why can't you guys? This is really disappointing. I think these prices are going to really hurt this thing's chance of success, and I hope we get as many or more games on this virtual console as we did on the original, but I don't see it happening. And if I was a publisher looking, you know, and my options were, hey, let's partner up with Nintendo and put our games on the Wii U virtual console at these prices, or let's take 40 of the games together, package them into a $29.99 retail nostalgia package, I'd have a really hard choice to make. I don't know which I'd go with. And yeah, I bet a lot of other people are thinking that right now too. The Wii U is not selling very well. I love this system. I love Nintendo. I love their games, and I really want all of them to succeed. But you need to give people a reason to invest, and $5 for a nearly 30-year-old game, $8 for a nearly 20-year-old game is just not reasonable. The general public are not going to do that, you know, especially when some of these games, like, you know, there are games on the Wii Virtual Console that you can buy on iOS for 99 cents right now, but they're, you know, $4 or $5 or more on there. You do the same thing here, it's just not going to work. And when you buy it on an iOS device, you can take it anywhere with you. When you buy it here, you're stuck with it in your living room. I just don't get it. Anyway, I wanted to rant about that, and I did want to show off a little bit about what's involved with transferring this and explain it to you, because Nintendo, as usual, is very poor at conveying their message in an easy to understand fashion. So I wanted to put that out there for you guys. I am very glad that this service is launched. I hope Nintendo succeeds with it, but I hope that if they don't and people aren't buying these, that they wake up and ask some questions and realize that maybe lower prices would help, and maybe they'll do that. They do seem to be more receptive and seem to have their head not stuck as firmly in the sand as they did in the past. So maybe they're going to learn something from that, and hopefully that will work out well. I'll still be doing a lot of retro flashback episodes based on Wii U Virtual Console games because they're easy to capture, and I like showing these games in a way, you know, that's easy to get at for people who want to try them out. But yeah, I think a lot of people, you know, who know enough to use things like emulators are going to be driven to that. You know, I will always pay for, I don't believe in piracy. I will always pay for content if I can get it in an easy way. But if people see $8 for Super Mario World, or that they could go BitTorrent it for free, I don't know. I think a lot of people are going to do that. But I hope not, and I hope Nintendo learns something from that. Anyway, this has been going on way too long, as usual. I don't know when to shut my mouth, so I will leave it there. But we will see how this goes. If you own a Wii U, you should definitely keep your eye on this. My name's been Parallax Abstraction. Thank you all very much for watching, and I'll see you next time.